NBC Nightly News, Monday, April 4th, with John Chancellor and David Brinkley reporting from the NBC News Center in New York.
Good evening. John Chancellor is off tonight. He'll be back tomorrow. A DC-9 passenger jet trying to get into Atlanta Airport late this afternoon with both engines out crashed 30 miles from the city and exploded. Our reports at the moment are, subject to change, that 57 are dead. It was a Southern Airlines flight from Huntsville, Alabama. Rick Edwards of WSB-TV in Atlanta has flown over the wreckage scene in a helicopter and has a report for us now.
There are several dozen ambulances spread from one end of New Hope Road to the other, and the debris left from the DC-9 crash is just that, just debris. No wing sections, no fuselage, just what appears to be the tail section, the elevator, and the stabilizer. Also, we've reported a house on fire, completely burned out, apparently because of the crash of the DC-9. 2 or 3 houses on further down apparently escaped any kind of damage at all. There are several trees which have been just leveled by the crash of the DC-9. Firemen apparently in a state of shock, as where the pilot myself are. It's quite a sight to see what used to be a DC-9 and no remnants, no fuselage, no wings or anything at all.
Rick Edwards from WSB-TV in Atlanta. The pilot of the plane radioed the Atlanta tower. He had lost both engines, both had flamed out, and also had troubles with his windshield. He was trying to land, he said, would try to land at the Dobbins Air Force Base outside the city. Couldn't make that and apparently tried to land on a highway. But in the process of doing so, he seems to have collided with buildings and trees along the roadside. We'll be back with the rest of the news in a minute.
Bill, hold your light with mine over here.
The last thing I ever thought I'd be doing is rowing around inside the belly of an oil tanker. I'm John Hoogle, captain of this Gulf supertanker. It's cold and wet and dark down here. But this ship is so big, it's the only way you can make a thorough inspection for structural integrity.
Check the valve reach rod behind that third frame.
We clean the inside, flood it with seawater, and go right in for a close look.
Low on deck.
It's a job nobody likes, but we have to do it to protect the ship, the oil, and the ocean. Gulf tankers have a good record. We want to keep it that way.
Notify the bridge that we're out.
Getting the oil where it's going is an endless challenge. Gulf people are meeting that challenge every day around the world. Gulf people meeting the challenge.
President Sadat of Egypt came to Washington today saying that any settlement in the Middle East requires a state, a homeland for the Palestinians. It is, he said, the crux of the matter. And he said no settlement will work without it. In his words of welcome, President Carter made no specific offers or promises, and he said only that this country is ready to help when asked. Here's Marilyn Berger in Washington.
President Carter greeted President Sadat outside the White House. It was raining, so the outdoor arrival ceremony with traditional military honors was canceled. Sadat's visit follows a visit several weeks ago by Israeli Prime Minister Rabin. Mr. Carter plans to meet with all the leaders of the Middle East to get negotiations for a settlement underway. In recent public statements, Mr. Carter has raised a number of issues: a homeland for the Palestinians, defensible borders for Israel, and the definition of what would constitute peace in the region. In his welcoming statement today, President Carter offered no new ideas for a Middle East solution, but promised that the United States would help if asked.
Our own country will offer its good offices when called upon to do so, to share with nations located there to find this peaceful resolution.
Sadat used Mr. Carter's public commitment to human rights to bolster his own case, his demand for Israeli withdrawal from Arab territory.
You pledged to spare no effort to help shape a just and peaceful world that is truly humane. Thus, you cannot support foreign occupation of one's land or tolerate territorial expansionism.
The meeting in the cabinet room was cordial, but there were many differences between the two leaders. President Carter has suggested that Israel might maintain defense outposts beyond legal borders. Mr. Sadat has made it clear that this would be a violation of Arab sovereignty. Mr. Carter has said that to establish peace, the borders in the Middle East should be open for free trade, travel, and cultural exchanges. Mr. Sadat has said that can come only after an agreement is reached. Both men accept the idea that there should be a place that the Palestinians call home, but that issue still remains a major one for negotiations. Marilyn Berger, NBC News, the White House.
Paul Warnke, the new disarmament negotiator, says no, the Carter administration did not miscalculate when it offered the Russians a disarmament deal which they rejected. And he says he remains optimistic. Charles Quinn in Washington.
Paul Warnke, who is America's chief arms negotiator, was called before a House subcommittee to testify about the disarmament agency's budget. But the main interest was in the SALT talks in Moscow. Warnke was with Secretary of State Vance in Moscow, and he said he did not believe the sense of gloom and doom following the talks was justified.
I don't think we could have anticipated that the Soviet Union, within a space of 3 days, would have been able to respond affirmatively to a dramatically new approach. I think that we're starting an educational process in which they're going to have to get to know us better. We're going to have to get to know more about the way in which they are approaching these problems. And I would anticipate that the negotiations will continue. I would anticipate also that they will accelerate in pace. And I think that since it's so much in the interests of both sides to find some means of bringing the nuclear arms competition under control, that I am genuinely optimistic about those prospects. And we believe our comments...
Warnke said he did not think the human rights issue was a significant factor in Moscow. He said, if we have to agree with Russia on human rights, we'll never get an arms control agreement. Charles Quinn, NBC News, Washington.
The Army has called General Andrew Goodpaster out of retirement to become superintendent of West Point and to try to bring it back to normal after the worst cheating scandal in its history. He is a soldier, a scholar, a former NATO commander in Europe, and he served in the Eisenhower White House.
Pardon me, what kind of dog food does your dog eat?
Young fella, there's two things I know. Checkers and dogs. Dogs like canned dog food. Especially Herman here.
Do you think he'd like Gaines burgers?
Well, he might. Yeah, leave this to me. Dogs like food that's moist and meaty.
But Gaines burgers are moist and meaty, see?
Go ahead, but...
And they taste terrific.
And you don't know nothing about Checkers, neither.
Gaines burgers dog food. The canned dog food without the can.
The Amway story has many chapters. This is one of them.
18 years ago, Amway distributors offered this one product.
Now we bring you over 150.
And there are more of us to do it.
More than 250,000 independent Amway distributors serve you nationwide.
That's a picture of growth and service you can't ignore.
Ready? Hold it. See your Amway distributor.
And get the whole story.
At least 9 people were killed by tornadoes in 2 counties in Alabama. Dozens of homes were torn apart and reduced to splinters of wood and brick. It was not a good day in Wall Street. The Dow Jones continued slipping and sliding and lost almost 12 points, and it now stands at 915. Since the slide began on March 16th, the Dow has lost 52 points. Fear of inflation is one reason given for the market's weak performance. President Carter promised a strong anti-inflation program this week, but we learn now it won't be ready this week, and when it is ready, it'll be more weak than strong. Here's Irving R. Levine in Washington.
NBC News has learned that the anti-inflation program President Carter said would be ready this week won't be. And some White House officials wish he hadn't said that the program will be a very strong one. The president's chief economist, Charles Schultz, who is preparing the program, told me it won't be ready until sometime after Easter. At his most recent news conference, the president twice mentioned the timetable.
Legitimate. We are now preparing a very strong anti-inflation package, which will be delivered to the Congress and to the American people within the next couple of weeks. And I believe that we will have unveiled for the nation to assess a comprehensive package against inflation within the next 2 weeks.
President Carter promised not to use wage price controls or jawboning, so his aides have had trouble coming up with anything but long-range and vague proposals, including deregulation of many industries to encourage greater price competition, greater authority for the Council on Wage and Price Stability for early detection of raw material shortages that could drive up prices, voluntary pre-notification by industries of price increases so the government can examine the justification. Budget Director Burt Lance told a group of reporters the package might not generally be regarded as very strong, and a reporter asked if the program was mainly eyewash. Lance: "Now you know we don't deal in eyewash." Reporter: "How about hogwash?" Lance: "Not hogwash either. Any other description I can deal with?" Reporter: "How about peanut brittle?" Lance did not reply. Irving R. Levine, NBC News, Washington.
New federal figures show this country now has more people in prison than ever before. 283,000. That's an increase of 12% since last year and an increase of 45% since 5 years ago. It is said that judges now are giving more and longer sentences, which may be one reason. Other figures last week showed violent crime had decreased, which may be one result. Strikes by public employees, once rare, are now common and increasingly so. Today, prison guards in Connecticut and sanitation men in Atlanta. 2 reports.
1,200 guards of Connecticut's prison system went on strike late last night in a dispute over pay. They set up picket lines outside all 10 prisons run by the state and paid no attention to a judge's order to go back to work. Hundreds of state police were called to the prisons in case they were needed to keep order inside, but they weren't needed. Instead, the state used a skeleton force of guard officers who are not members of the union and also used supervisory people. Pickets wondered how long this would work.
They don't have the adequate staffing or the trained personnel in there right now. Most of the people that are in there right now have only been in there. One fellow came in today, it was his first day on the job. So I don't know what he's going to do in there because you have a maximum security area with close to 400 population.
Well, right now they're operating. I don't think it's safe. It's just a matter until something happens.
But the warden of this prison in Bridgeport said the inmates seem to be taking things very well.
There's been no reaction from them, no disturbance of any kind, and they're taking it all in stride. We are maintaining all of the treatment programs, the visits, their own commissary inside, religious programs, so nothing has been disturbed as far as inmates are concerned.
Connecticut officials say they'll do whatever is necessary to maintain order within the state prison system. One possibility, if the strike goes on very long, they say they'll consider calling out the State National Guard to patrol cell blocks here. Robert Hager, NBC News, Bridgeport, Connecticut.
In Atlanta, some residents are hauling their own garbage to special collection points at neighborhood schools and shopping centers. They're doing it because the mayor fired 1,000 striking maintenance workers last Friday. The workers had refused to return to work after salary negotiations broke down. The city employees union had threatened to picket collection sites. There weren't any pickets at this school, but there weren't many people dumping garbage either. Most people chose to leave their trash, about a week's worth, in their front yards. This morning, the city began interviewing applicants to replace the fired strikers. The union had set up picket lines at the employment office to discourage applicants, but that didn't work. More than enough people crossed the picket lines to fill the 1,000 jobs available. Most said they need the work.
I felt like it was a great opportunity for me to get a job, but I haven't worked in 2 years and it's been very hard trying to find one.
It looks as though most of the strikers will be replaced before the end of this week, but the union isn't giving up yet.
How? I think we'll keep on fighting till we get our job back.
And how will you fight?
Well, there's certain ways you have to deal with it.
No new negotiations are scheduled. The city says it can't even talk about pay raises until next year. Jan Ryan for NBC News, Atlanta.
Human beings will be used for testing a new form of vitamin A, not the usual drugstore vitamin A, to see if it will prevent certain kinds of cancer. If it works, it will help to prevent it, not cure it. Robert Bazell in Washington.
Scientists can make rats develop deadly cancerous tumors, such as this one, by exposing the rats to certain chemicals. It is similar to what can happen to people, exposed to cigarette smoke and other cancer-causing compounds. This rat did not get cancer, even though it was exposed to the same cancer-causing chemical. Scientists gave this one regular doses of a drug, similar to vitamin A. Such experiments suggest that drug may also prevent cancer in humans. The drug is now being produced at the Hoffman-LaRoche Pharmaceutical Company in New Jersey. And soon it will be given at clinics in 9 cities to heavy smokers who could get lung cancer and chemical workers who might get bladder cancer to see if cancer can be prevented. Dr. Michael Sporn of the National Cancer Institute has performed much of the research with this new drug.
The animal data make us very optimistic, but it's always a big jump in going from animals to man, and the proof of that remains to be determined. So I don't want to give anybody the impression that there is a proven preventive agent for prevention of cancer in people.
Experiments are underway at the National Cancer Institute and other laboratories to learn if other vitamin A derivatives might prevent other types of cancer.
The scientists here emphasize 3 things about this new treatment. First, there is no evidence yet that it will be effective in humans. Second, even if it is effective, it will only be for prevention. It will not cure cancer. And third, this compound has little to do with the vitamin A that you find in vitamin pills. And in fact, if you take too much of that, you could get sick. Robert Bazell, NBC News at the National Cancer Institute, Bethesda, Maryland.
I'm not surprised that Sominex is the best-selling sleeping aid in America. It works so well for me, and it must work the same way for others. Those nights when I have trouble falling asleep, I need to relax and feel drowsy. Well, Sominex helps me do just that. I get to sleep, and the next morning I feel really refreshed.
Sominex, America's best-selling sleeping aid. When you sometimes have trouble falling asleep, let Sominex work for you.
Sominex sure works for me.
This is Polaroid's new Pronto, an SX70 picture. And this came out of my detective kit, along with my handcuffs. Now take a look through this. See how sharp and clear that SX70 color is, even when it's magnified? And Polaroid's color lasts. Pronto's a lot of fun, and you know, this camera's so automatic. It doesn't need much help from you.
It's clear it's got to be Pronto.
At Remington, we've come up with something big, the Smooth and Silky, an electric shaver for women that we believe is as good as a blade. And to prove it, we're giving away a blade with every Smooth and Silky. We guarantee the Remington Smooth and Silky will shave you as well as a blade or your money back. Now that's what we call big. The Remington Smooth and Silky, as good as a blade or your money back.
In Plaquemine, Louisiana, outside of New Orleans, the city owns the utilities. And by law, 60 days without paying the bills means the service is cut off. Well, now that winter is over, the city is enforcing the law and turning off the gas. Kenley Jones in Plaquemine.
The utilities in Plaquemine, gas, electricity, which is generated by gas, and water, are municipally owned. The city has passed an ordinance to discontinue services to customers who are more than 60 days behind in paying their bills. Today, the city began enforcing the law, working from a list of those who have owed the city the most, the longest. This man, who runs a nightclub in his house, owed $1,800. The mayor estimates about 1,000 of the city's 5,000 utility customers are behind in their bills, some of them more than a year. He says the rising cost of natural gas has forced the city to collect.
We have no solution right now except to collect the money so we can pay off our bills to the gas company so they don't cut this whole city of Plaquemine off.
But the people whose electricity is being shut off obviously can't pay, so that's not going to help you get the money, is it?
Well, that's true in some cases, but in some cases, some people that haven't paid can pay.
Some people did show up at City Hall this morning to pay their bills or at least to pay something on them, but some who are deepest in debt seem least able to pay. Mrs. Albertha Hall, who lives here with her husband and 6 children, owes a $1,000 utility bill. She said she got behind when her husband was out of work, and further behind this winter when fuel adjustment charges for gas began skyrocketing.
What are you going to do if they do come out and cut off your water and gas and lights?
Well, like I said, I'd have to do like the pioneers. Cook out in the yard. Use lamp lights, kerosene.
The price of natural gas produced and sold in Louisiana, one of the nation's biggest producers, is not federally regulated and can cost up to 1/3 more than gas sold out of state. That is not the only reason people are behind in their bills here, but it is a factor. Kimley Jones, NBC News, Plaquemine, Louisiana.
This is the flag they say will fly over Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket if, out of anger and hurt feelings, they secede from Massachusetts. They were voting today on whether to do that, to declare their independence of the state and become a 51st state, or join another state, or even to become an independent country. They are small islands off the coast, but very salty in more ways than one, and are unwilling to be pushed around. No voting results until tomorrow. To repeat the news of a few minutes ago, a Southern Airways DC-9 crashed and exploded late today trying to get into the Atlanta, Georgia airport. Current reports are that 57 people were killed or more. The plane was on its way from Huntsville. The pilot reported some kind of trouble with his windshield and said his 2 engines had flamed out. He first tried to land at an Air Force base near Atlanta, and then, when he couldn't make that, tried to land on a highway 30 miles from the city. It didn't work. In trying to land, the plane hit buildings, trees, and other objects.
One ounce of Total has 100% of the recommended daily allowance of all these important vitamins and iron.
That's good.
I'll pour this leading natural cereal. Stop me when you think the vitamin value equals Total's.
Okay.
Not yet.
Enough.
Nope.
Oh, come on.
It takes at least 16 ounces of any leading natural cereal to equal the vitamins in 1 ounce of fortified Total.
Well, that's a real difference.
That's the total difference.
Would you believe over 2 million men are getting rid of their gray hair with Grecian Formula 16?
I would. No one really wants to be gray. I was getting too gray, but no phony dye job for me. Then a friend told me he used Grecian Formula. I didn't even know it.
It's as easy to use as water. Works for any color hair.
The change was so gradual and looked so natural, no one even noticed. I left just a little gray.
Grecian Formula used by over 2 million men.
I bet a lot of your friends are using it, and you don't even know it.
Japanese industry has, in many ways, become the envy of the world. Highly productive, good quality merchandise, and almost no strikes. Lately, they have had recession and inflation, but industries continue to perform through it all. It all seems to lie in the industrial and social structure and in the attitude of the workers. Employers and employees are a sort of family. With our special this evening, Jim Laurie in Japan.
It looks like normal military basic training. Growling sergeants, forced drills, and all. But this is no ordinary boot camp. For while the training is that of the Japanese Self-Defense Force, the raw recruits here are bound not for the Army, but for the desks and workshops of a big Japanese industrial firm. The corporation here, known as Yazaki, requires a 3-day to 1-week military program for most of its new employees. Other Japanese firms, including Toshiba, Sony, and Mitsubishi, do the same.
The company management says that military training like this will instill in the workers discipline, teamwork, and precision. And those are factors which go a long way to explain why Japanese industry produces so much and so well.
Yazaki is rather typical of Japanese family corporations which dominate the international scene. The founder, Sadami Yazaki, spent 50 years building the company into a major electric wire and cable maker. Each morning, these 400 employees of the main plant's day shift are called to assembly. A tape of the company's song is played. We will cover the world with wire, it goes, and our factory and nation will prosper. Then a speech by a section chief exhorting workers to greater output and better quality. Finally, as in all good working regiments, there are exercises in unison. But it's not all dedication based on rigid regimentation. The Japanese company gets the most out of its workers by giving them just about everything they need. Five-year-old Yasunori Aoyagi has been at work in this wire cable assembly area for 17 years. As a foreman now, he's consulted at monthly labor management meetings on the overall production planning. It gives him a sense of participation. The Japanese call it ringi, and few top management decisions can be carried out without the consensus of all. For the Aoyagi family, the factory is the home. Mrs. Aoyagi shops at the factory commissary at prices 30% off outside Japanese food stores. The Aoyagi's oldest son attends the company kindergarten, and if any of these children should become ill, the company free medical clinic is just down the street. Most of the firm's employees live in company housing at a fraction of the rent it would cost on the outside. The Aoyagi family of four has a 3-room apartment. Mr. Aoyagi spends a good deal of time preparing for company weekend fishing trips, a chance to relax and think. Although Yazaki workers have a labor union, there have been no strikes in 14 years. Mr. Aoyagi and his fellow workers seem satisfied. They have pledged themselves to a lifetime of the best possible effort for the company, and the company has pledged its best to them. It's the system which has made Japanese industry what it is today. Jim Laurie, NBC News, Numazu, Japan.
Thank you, and good night for all of us at NBC News.
What does it take to start the wheels of American industry rolling? It takes machines, men, and money. That's where savings and loans come in. Money you save with us goes back into your community in the form of home loans. The savings and loan commitment to housing generates over $100 million a day for jobs, goods, and services. Help keep America rolling by having your savings account at your savings and loan.
Biggest thing in my life? My family's health. Now, we don't use many medicines. We stay with what we know is good. So now and then, when constipation's a worry, we let chocolated X-Lax help. My family likes the taste, so it's easy to take. Works gently, too. I've heard more families buy X-Lax than any other brand. And I say people have a way of knowing what's good. Like X-Lax. Now you know, too.
Try gentle chocolated X-Lax. Good medicine at a good price.